Don't sound repetitive.
So many English speakers, they use the same words over and over and over and over again that it just becomes monotonous and boring. For example,
and then.
But, rather.
So, because.
In a word, in conclusion.
On the one hand, in my opinion. All of those just need to not be said as often as they are.
Absolutely. These words are so overused. So today we put a list of 36 transition words that you guys can use instead.
So transition words, what do they do and what are they for?
They show the relationship between one part of a sentence or paragraph to another.
And we typically put stress or extra intonation on that word so that we show that this is the crux of our sentence or the crux of our argument or something like that. So that's why you hear people say, however. They put a lot of extra emphasis on that word because it's a transition word.
Right. It shows the relationship between the two parts, so they're really important and they do different things. However, a lot of us like to use the same transition words over and over again, which actually waters down what we're trying to say, and so it doesn't carry as much weight when we say them.
So what we've done is we've organized these 36 transition words in the categories to show the relationship that they demonstrate. So like the first set we're going to talk about shows agreement or adding on.
So for example, in addition to is a really good example.
Right. Or coupled with. You're far less likely to see coupled with in a textbook for ESL learners. So coupled with means this together with something else. The rain coupled by the freezing temperatures caused really dangerous conditions on the road.
Another one that you might not necessarily hear so often is moreover. It's a really good formal text transition word, but it's also just not really used that often.
Yeah, and it comes down to like, of all these reasons, moreover, here's the most important reason. So it's kind of like one of those that you put at the end, or the one that's all-encompassing, or the one that's most important. Further is one that you've likely heard quite a bit, actually. Yeah. But further or furthermore, both of those are acceptable and used very much like moreover.
Another one is likewise. So this is a really good one for even intermediate speakers. For example, he enjoys traveling to Asia every summer. Likewise, I enjoy the thrill of being in a new place.
Another one is equally important. This one might be after a couple of reasons that you've given to support whatever you're saying, and you can say equally important. Here's another reason. It kind of replaces saying, yet another reason I think this. You can just say equally important.
Yeah. The next section is about opposing or limiting something. So instead of adding in addition to, you could use conversely.
This one you're going to introduce support for the opposite opinion. Bill enjoys mowing the lawn. Conversely, Laura likes to plant flowers.
Another one that's similar to that is unlike.
Unlike Bill, who likes to mow the grass, Laura likes to plant flowers. As much as is another one that you can use and sounds a lot more colloquial. It's something that's far more native-like. Yeah. And so you can say, as much as I would enjoy going to the mall with you, I'd rather not today.
Another good one is despite. Despite our busy schedule, we're going to the mall.
The next section is on causation. So if you're trying to show that something is the result of something else, you might say something like since or while. Since he left the gate open, all the horses got out.
So the reason why the horses got out, the cause, original, is that he left the gate open.
While he should have shut the gate, he didn't, so the horses got out.
Or, simple one was just to say because of. Not just because. Use the preposition in there to make it a little bit more clear that you're saying because of this happened. Because of A, B.
It's the same with due to. Due to A, B. Due to the lack of rain, lots of crops failed this summer.
The result of the cause is also another category of transition words that you can use to point to the end, B, not necessarily A. For example, as a result.
These result transition words are mainly going to go at the beginning of the sentence, probably the beginning of the conclusion paragraph if you're thinking about your argument in terms of writing. But if you're speaking, you might say your opinion, say all the reasons you think that way, and then just say, hence, I think this, or consequently, this is the way I think.
Right. You kind of stack it all up, and then at the last second, you say, this is the result.
Right. But within a sentence, you can still have an introduction saying one thing, and you say consequently in the middle, and you can have the rest. So, he neglected to shut the refrigerator door. Consequently, all the meat went bad.
Yeah, these are really, really good transition phrases so that you guys can pull backwards to show, hey, this is why this thing is happening.
Yeah, it helps keep your listener's attention to be able to use transition words with the proper stress and intonation.
Other result words are like therefore and in effect.
So another type of transition is a condition type. So this means like, as long as you do your job, I'll do my job, or everything will be okay.
These are a good way to not just show movement from one sentence to another sentence, but to say, if this, if A, then B.
Right, but if-then sentences are easy to say all the time. So how can you mix up conditional statements? As long as is a great way to do that.
For example, our house is going to flood unless it stops raining.
But notice that we're not saying it is a fact that it has happened. It's just saying, like, if things don't change, will be the result. Whenever is a great colloquial one that we use to describe condition. We say it all the time when we speak to a friend. So whenever you come into town, just let me know and we'll meet up.
So we don't know if he's going to come into town. We don't know if they're going to meet us. But whenever you do, come on by.
And this replaces next time you do this, which we do say, but if you say it every single time, it gets a bit repetitive. So if you change it up with whenever, at least you have some variety in there.
And the last one in this section is so that. For example, study well so that you can pass the test.
How many times have you heard that?
A lot.
We've got two more categories of transition words to talk about. So the first one's going to be giving examples. How can you introduce an example? So ways that you can give examples or support to kind of bolster what you're saying, you can say, for this reason. For the reasons mentioned above, we believe that we need to replace all the gas lines in downtown.
Or you could say to clarify. So if a person's trying to understand, you can say, oh, to clarify, you need to sign these documents before this date. Otherwise, service will stop.
And the last three are something that we use all the time, and you probably do hear all the time. However, they're not overused enough to say that you shouldn't use them. These are especially, particularly, and notably, or most notably.
These are all really good mid-sentence transitions to get your listeners to get back onto the thought in case their mind starts wandering away. You can say, hey, especially though, this is the most important, or most notably, or particularly this.
Yeah. So we need to clean the entire kitchen, especially the stove.
And the last section is transition words that you can use to help wrap up your thought or wrap up your paper. To summarize.
Which is one of them. You could say, to summarize, we have found that it is more effective to wash your dog once a week than every day.
Or another one you could say is to conclude.
Which is the exact same way. It's the conclusion of your argument. So ideally, when you use these wrap-up transitions, you've had several points that you've said before. So you're concluding all of those points. If you just said one thing, there's nothing to conclude because there's just one thing, and your listener likely remembers that one thing.
Right. So this is a way to kind of bring it to a point and say, here is the main idea of this whole video, concept, idea, paragraph, paper.
Right. The idea is when you construct an argument, you start with your opinion or your thesis, your main idea, but then you circle around and you explain your reasonings, and eventually you come back full circle and then you say, so to summarize, you actually say your main idea or your main opinion again, but in slightly different words.
Some other phrases you can use is, overall, I think the movie was good.
You can also say, in any event. This one's a little more unique and a lot more colloquial, actually. You can say, like, lots of things that may happen in an emergency situation. In any event, everyone's going to go to the storm shelter when that alarm goes off.
To summarize, to sum up, or in conclusion,
or in summary.
These are our transition words. All of them are really good ways that you can use to try to transition and keep the flow of thought moving forward as you're trying to express your ideas or your opinions.
Guys, it's important to remember that if you continue using the same things over and over and over again, that is okay. You will get by. But if you want to grow to English fluency, then you need to be varying things up. You need to mix things up a little bit. You need to put a lot more expression in, and it's okay to put some personality in there. Because with these transition words, you're supposed to use your voice and stress and intonation. You're supposed to say things in a way that captures your listener's attention again, and it gives them a signal that you're about to transition to the most important thing, or one of the important things. So transition words are great, and having a variety of them in your toolbox is a great way to add color and personality to your English.
So we encourage you guys to use these. You guys can use the ones that we talked about in the beginning of this video, but be sure you try to vary and change up the way that you say things so that your listeners and your readers can keep on paying attention.
All right, that's it for this one, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.